Hello, everyone. We will be starting in about 5 minutes, so if you would please find your seats, find the people you want to sit with. If you are thinking about making a comment during this, first of all, welcome to that opportunity. We'll talk about that in a moment. But when you are coming up, I want you to remember a couple of things. First of all, when you come up, say your name and zip code. So we're basically using city council rules. Those of you who've been to a city council meeting, you know how this works. Name and zip code, and then you will get 2 minutes to make your comment. The big screens over there will have a 2-minute countdown, so you'll be able to see where you are and keep in mind what you're doing. We'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
Is that the sign? Mics, turn the mics on. I think I'm hot.
I would have planned ahead. Yeah, I didn't want to. Big news today, huh?
We need to schedule a meeting with him.
Hello, everybody. We have just a little bit of technical stuff to work out back there, so if you give us just another minute or two, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
We'll make it up for everyone. You'll get your time to speak. We will not cut you short.
Okay, apparently we did not need a couple of minutes, we needed a couple of seconds, so that was my bad. So we're going to get this started in just a second, but we'll pretend like we're starting like this is a studio audience for something. In just a second, I will say we're going to start, okay? Thank you for coming tonight for this forum on the proposed Anchor Resource Center. My name is Andrew Downs. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Mayor, and I will be moderating this event as well as participating with some information. We're going to start with some forum essentials. First of all, this event is actually being streamed live. It's also being recorded, so people will be able to go back and see it later if they wish to. Second, when you come up to speak, there's a mic in the front. Please come up, say your name and your zip code. So we're using city council rules here to keep us all familiar with the pattern we've been using for other things. If you would, as you can see, there are a lot of people in this room. So if somebody is saying something you have said before, please get out of line and let somebody else come up so that they have a chance to say something new or different. There will be a short presentation at the start of this. Next slide. Next slide. You'll be able to find this on City TV. You can see that URL right there, and you can also go to Engage Fort Wayne to find information about that there, or if you're lucky and you can scan that QR code, that would work for you as well. I do want to thank the Grand Wayne Center for helping us out tonight, making this room available to everybody. And in the interest of making sure that you all can hear things, we've all been asked to speak right into these microphones. And now everybody to my left is going to have an opportunity to just say hello and who they are so we can know that you can hear them. Who are you?
Well, my name is Sharon Tucker, Mayor of the City of Fort Wayne. Thank you all so much for being here to have this important conversation. Thank you.
My name is Amanda Fall, and I'm the Manager of Homeless Services for the City of Fort Wayne, and I also serve on the Anchor Resource Center Board of Directors.
Hi, I'm Meg Disler. I have the privilege of serving as the chair of the Anchor Board Resource Center, which you'll hear more about if you haven't already.
So I'm going to guess that you all could hear us reasonably well. We're going to start with a brief presentation. We're going to hear from the mayor first, then we'll hear from Amanda, then from me, and then from Meg. And so, Mayor, your comments?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here. I can tell by the crowd that we are all very passionate about making sure that we have a solution for our citizens of Fort Wayne that are currently unhoused. It's interesting how the Lord works in mysterious ways, because today I had a doctor's appointment and I was sitting in the lobby waiting on my appointment for them to call me back. And there was a young lady that drove by me on a scooter, and she backed up, beep, beep, and she says, "You're the mayor of Fort Wayne, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She says to me, "I'm behind you on the resource center." And I said, "Thank you. Do you mind if I ask you why?" And she shared with me that she was homeless for 2 years and slept in her van. And I said, "Pull closer. I want to talk more to you if you don't mind." And I said, "You slept in your van for 2 years. How did you do that?" She says, "I stayed in the Myers parking lot. When I needed to go to the bathroom, I went inside of Myers to use the restroom." She says, "When I was able to save enough money to be able to pay for a hotel, maybe every other week, I went in there and I took a shower." And I said, "Wow, how did you afford that?" She said that she paid for a P.O. box so that she could get her Social Security check. She had suffered from cancer. She had lost her sister. I didn't ask her what led her to homelessness. I just let her talk to me while we were talking. And she said, that's why I support the center, because I know that it's needed. I then asked her, how did you break the cycle? How did you get out of homelessness? She said, I was finally able, after 2 years, to muster enough of my paychecks together to be able to have a deposit to put on an apartment. And I said, well, congratulations. She shared with me that she was 71 years old. And I said, when were you homeless? She said, about 5 years ago. That would have made her somewhere between 65 and 66 years of age. Homelessness impacts more people than the people that we see walking around downtown that sometimes, if we're honest, we don't want to admit that they're there. The Resource Center is designed to be able to care for all. When I took the oath to become mayor, I took an oath that I would represent all of our community. Thank you. As a city, we invest in our downtown by supporting developers that want to build nice apartments, nice structures. We've done that through lit dollars, through tax abatements, and through CIB funding by helping developers invest in our community. As a city, we're investing into neighborhoods, putting millions of dollars in neighborhoods to improve the quality of life for residents right where they are, right in their neighborhood, so that they have firsthand experience of seeing life improve for them. That helps the middle class and those that are in the class. So I've just identified that we've helped wealthy and that we've helped the middle class. But in order for us to be able to help all abilities, all opportunities, we as a city also have to look at addressing homelessness. And I know for many that is not a pretty picture, because I've gone around the city since we've started having this conversation, and I've asked the question, would you like for it to be in your neighborhood, our homeless resource center? And many would honestly say, no, I would prefer it to be downtown. And I'm okay with their honesty, because the one thing we do know is not in my backyard is serious. And so our goal throughout this entire time was not to have to select between a resident or a neighborhood that would house the resource center. Our goal this entire time was to make sure that the resource center was accessible. And our goal the entire time was to make sure that the resource center is affordable. Now, I will tell you that the city of Fort Wayne is buying a building. Much like we want to be the leaser to the leasees who are going to be leasing the space. We've done that with Science Central. We've done that with the History Center. And believe it or not, we currently do that with Parkview Field. We will not be operating the Anchor Resource Center. We have partnered with a non-for-profit that will operate the Resource Center. I want to clear up a few misnomers that have been shared, whether it was in the press or whether it was in written press or on social media. There is no line item in the city of Fort Wayne's taxing budget that gives resources to pay for unhoused centers or any homelessness. There is no line item. Council here with us, thank you all so much for being here, all 5 of you, thank you so much. The council goes through the budget, yes, thank you. The council goes through the budget, some of them line by line by line. They will catch me if I'm trying to slide something in on taxpayers. There's no line item for it. There is a line item for us to invest in ourselves and do what we've done in other services, and that is by buying a building. That is what the city of Fort Wayne is doing. That is why we are here. We would like to buy a building and utilize that building to help solve the challenge that many have identified. They would like something to be done. We have created a plan. We've invited conversations in for the plan for people to be able to help collaborate with us. And so the city is looking to buy a building. I also want to clear up the misnomer that eventually the city will be paying for it. Like I've said before, no line item in the budget. Tax dollars have regulations around how they can be used. We have gone through to our partners, our philanthropic community, and we have asked them for financial support to raise the operational cash so that we can then give that operational cash to the individuals that will be operating the facility. Now, you all, I have had the honor and privilege to have 2.5 years of being the CEO of a non-for-profit. And I can tell you, we had 33 properties at that time. We had somewhere between 11 and 12 staff, and we had a budget of $1.3 million. And so we've gone through the numbers. But like anything, this is a new project, and adjustments may have to be made. But we have raised the revenue, and we'll continue working to raise the revenue in the event that there is a line item that is over budgeted or under budgeted. So please rest assured we have gone through the numbers. Andy is looking at me intently like, Mayor, you've gone over your time. I will wait and share more data as needed, but I want you all to know this is a solid plan that we've put forward. It is not a perfect plan, and it's not the end plan. We know that there needs to be additional housing in the city of Fort Wayne. We know that there needs to be additional affordable housing in the city of Fort Wayne. We also know that as a collective group, we are investing in ourselves. And this is one way to move forward to help address the challenge that, whether you agree or disagree, we have all talked about that needs to be addressed. And so I will now turn it over to Amanda to share with you how we got here.
Thank you, Mayor. Next slide. I'm going to do a quick look back because even prior to Mayor taking office, our community realized that homelessness was an issue that we needed to address. From 2021 to 2023, the community worked with community leaders, with a national organization that specializes in homelessness, and with churches, and with people with lived experience. From that, we wrote a strategic plan called the Everyone Home Plan to end homelessness. I want to stress so much went into that. There were stakeholder interviews, there were more than 1,300 community surveys, there were focus groups, and we also looked at local data and national best practices. Out of that plan, there were 4 broad goals and there were 7 recommendations. And I'd like to talk about a couple of the recommendations that were specified in that plan. I'm going to read it so that I'm not misquoting. The plan identified the need for a permanent, year-round, low-barrier, housing-focused facility that would be open around the clock and accessible without many of the barriers that could prevent people from receiving help. It also documented the need for a place where people can go and access showers, laundry, employment assistance, housing navigation, and other support services. This was released in 2023. This is not a new idea for our community. This is living up to what we said needed to be done. This is living up to addressing gaps that currently exist. We're not duplicating services. We're filling gaps in our continuum of care. Since I began as a city manager of homeless services, I've continued the work from this plan, and I oversee several committees. Next slide. Up on the screen, it'll show you the committees that I oversee. The committees focus on encampments, on outreach services, on shelter access, on engaging landlords, and on preventing homelessness. Next slide. Some of those committees have brought together multiple city departments, which are listed up on your screen. Departments that may not have realized that they touch our homelessness continuum of care, but they all do. They all play a role, and now they're all at the table with our service providers. The next 2 slides show all of the community members and the organizations that are involved in these meetings every single month. When we have these meetings, I'm consistently updating what is happening with the Anchor Resource Center, why we need it, getting feedback, and constantly adapting the plan so that we are meeting the needs of our community. Does everyone agree with everything word for word? Absolutely not. That's impossible. No one in this room would ever think that. But we are all coming together and saying, yes, This will address huge gaps in our community, and this is the right first step for us to take. The anchor is not the entire solution to homelessness, but is a long-planned, community-informed response. That's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Meg.
Oh, nope, nope.
Nope, to Andy.
Didn't you want to show some data?
I do want to show some data. Thank you, Andy. Beyond that, our needs have not changed. So last year we did our first unsheltered count in Fort Wayne in July. We've done our second sheltered count. I do have preliminary data for our second count. There will be a little bit of tweaks here and there. But what I want you to show is that homelessness has not gone our way. Our unsheltered in July of 2025 was at 377, and right now we're at 381. Small increase, but really we're seeing the same numbers of people. In terms of people who are living in shelter, we do have an increase of about 50 individuals, and so that means more people are accessing care and more people are getting connected to shelter, which is wonderful. And then our Fort Wayne community numbers have changed a little bit, but not a ton. And so what you're seeing is there is still a tremendous need for the Anchor Resource Center so that we can address those people who are living unsheltered, who are living in cars, and who are living in hotels. And now I will turn it over to Andy.
Thank you. One of the things that's been discussed quite a bit is the location, and so I'm going to show you a series of maps. The first map are the 5 locations that were part of the initial investigation downtown. Obviously, 333, one of the things that people have been talking about, 333 East Washington is one of those 5. The next map that you see is all of the places that were found either on real estate websites or suggested by real estate professionals. The third slide that you're about to see are the suggestions that just came to us from the public. And we took just about every suggestion that people could give us. If we could figure it out where it was, we did. For example, somebody said, there's an empty church over on Putnam that's for sale right now, and we were actually able to track down where that was. We were not able, however, to track down when somebody said, how about one of the empty buildings on Calhoun? That was a little too broad a category for us. We need to bring it down a little bit. The final map that you see up there right now is all of those locations. And so you can see consistently things were suggested by different individuals in that downtown area or south central, southeast Fort Wayne with a few outliers. When we tried to decide which one of these is the best place to look at, we used 2 methodologies for doing that. One of them got a whole lot more attention than the other one, and so that's the one that we're going to talk about right now. And the next slide will actually show you the criteria that we were looking at. First of all, we thought it should be an existing building because building something is expensive. We thought that there had to be about 20,000 square feet or more. We needed about 30 parking spaces so that individuals who are coming there, who want to stay in their cars are able to. The people who work there would be able to do that, and people who come to volunteer would also be able to. An outdoor courtyard area was something we were looking for, and then we preferred something that was 3 miles or less to downtown because, quite frankly, that's where a lot of services are offered. We actually calculated that based on Google Maps. I know some people don't like Google, but it was consistent the way we did it for the entire way. We did look for sidewalks or trails. In other words, nobody has to walk out in a street to get here. It had to not be residential in its zoning. And then the final 2 down there is it within 500 or 1,000 feet of residential property. So those were the criteria. When we started looking at all of them, we decided to attach a number. And so every time a criteria a site failed to meet a criteria, it got a point. So the more points someplace had, the less appropriate it was as a location for us. And so as you can see, there were no places that were considered to be perfect or 0 score. There were 5 that had a 1 and 12 that had a 2. And I know some people are going to say, well, shouldn't we pick one of the places that got a 5? And that makes sense, but we're going to talk about that right now. You'll see on the screen right now the 5 that scored a 1. And you'll see the first one, 1301 South Harrison, that's the current home of Lincoln Financial Group. 205 Murray Street is Jensen Cabinets, and we thought it was probably not a good idea to be trying to kick out businesses, existing businesses. 300 East Washington is the Grand Marquis, obviously a place that currently provides assisted living in the downtown area. And then 4133 New Haven, that's a good 3 miles from downtown. 505 East Washington Boulevard is the current home of Craig DeVault, which is an attorney, a law firm here in town. They have a lease that will run for a little while, and the current asking price is $3.6 million. So now let's talk about those that scored a 2. East Jacobs there, that is currently the home of Contact Interior, so once again, an existing business that would have to be asked to be moved out. Additionally, portions of that building are located in a flood zone, AE. 1500 Goshen is Gateway Shopping Center, so some of you may go there to shop right now. If you don't, if you look at a map, what you'll see is that it shares a property line with residential areas, so but for all intents and purposes, it is residential in its zoning. 1711 Creighton is what used to be known as Link's Wonderland for a lot of us. That is a place that is zoned appropriately in I-1, but it basically has residential on 2 of the sizes. So once again, very much in a residential area. 200 East Superior is a very, very large building. It was the home of Party Apart for a lot of you to remember where that is. That is about 100,000 square feet, and the current asking price is $3 million. 2021 Broadway is George's International, a grocery store that serves a part of town already, so that seemed like maybe not a good thing to kick out. And then 301 West Superior, the current location of the rescue mission, that is now blank grounds we would have to build again. Now the next slide. I'm going to hold 333 for a second. I'll jump down to 413 East Jefferson. This is the current home of Matthew 25. They are moving in a couple of years. In other words, we wouldn't be able to get anything going for some time, and we have been told the asking price is $3 million again. 4646 Arden. This is 5.3 miles from downtown. There also are some places where there are no sidewalks available, and it's 1,000 feet until you can even get to a bus stop. 525 Hayden is where TRA is located. 525 Tecumseh is a brownfield site that would require significant environmental remediation. And then 7603 Nelson is technically located in New Haven and is 5.1 miles from downtown, which takes us back to the top. 333 East Washington. That is a place where we know it's relatively close to some other housing, some residential, because the Grand Marquis is across the street from it. We know that there were possibly some environmental issues. There was some testing being done when the memo was written that was sent to council members. The results from that testing have come back, and they're very positive tests in terms of what we're looking for. Negative, they're negative tests, which are positive. You know how it's like when you go to the doctor. Same sort of thing right here. The next thing that I want to talk about, though, is this idea of fenders. For those of you who have paid attention to this issue, there has been a lot of talk about this. The Sheriff's Department actually sent information to us and to the City Council back months ago, and I'm going to try to abbreviate that right now. 3 tiers of offenders. Offenders against children is the highest tier. The lowest tier are sex offenders. That's the lowest tier. Sex offenders and sexually violent predators who committed their violation before July 1st of 2006 can actually reside anywhere. So the people who are saying you can't reside in these areas, not true. You do have to report yourself, but you can't. You have to be someplace. The rescue mission is within 1,000 feet of one school, one park, or daycare. Sex offenders and CUNDIF qualified sexual violent offenders are allowed there. And I want to make this very, very clear. The Allen County Police Department does a very, very good job of not only tracking where offenders are, but I also know that they go out and pick up people who are places they are not supposed to be, and so kudos to the Allen County Police Department for that. We're now going to move over to Meg, who is going to talk about some of the most often cited misconceptions. Meg?
Thank you. The first major misconception is this word low barrier. Low barrier is pretty techie sounding, but it really means all are welcome. If you are at all talking to most people who are working in the homeless community, they specialize in one population: men, women, no children. It gets very difficult for people to know where a door is open. When we say low barrier, everyone is open. But don't misunderstand that to say that we would allow anything unsafe for anyone to come into that building. If somebody is out of control, inebriated or something, they would not be allowed in if they are a threat to themselves or anyone around there. But low barrier means all are welcome. There's been a lot of questions about the security there. And first of all, we need this to be a 24/7 operation, but we have been working very, very closely with the police department on designing all of the security provisions, and they will be a major partner in everything that goes on here. This is not separate, a standalone in the sense of we're not working in partnerships. This is a resource center to bring resources like our best security together in the community. Budget. And Mayor, you kind of shared a lot about the budget, but there is no line item, but we have a strong board who is committed to raise funds that go over. Most amazing to me is somebody who's worked in the underprivileged, vulnerable community for the last 3 decades. We have the first 3 years of operating cost committed to by the local philanthropic community. That's amazing. We have additional people who, until we get a location secured, have said they want a proposal, but can't respond and can't act on it. And so I see many friends in the funding community. Thank them as you see them in this room. So the budget, we do know, will go up and down. We think right now we're at 1.2 million. And Mayor, you said pretty clearly, Vincent Village runs on an budget, doing wonderful work at 1.2 million. Could it go up? Yes. Could it go down? No. We don't even know the building for sure yet. All of those will impact the actual operating cost. The last one is the partners that we have in there. This is a resource center. This is not a shelter. This, as a resource center, as Mayor's story told so beautifully, where can we have safe bathrooms downtown? Where can we have showers? Where can there be a mailing address, a place to plug in your phone? For a lot of people who have suddenly become homeless, they need an address so they can get their benefits. 70% of the homeless actually have revenue streams, but try filling out a government form without an address. It's very difficult. So having these basic resources and then partners who are committed to do it in the community. For behavioral health, Park Center has already said they will be working with us there on site. For employment, Blue Jacket has committed to come in there and to help people get employment. For case management, Catholic Charities has committed to doing case management. So some of these are not our line item budget in our budget because they're already phenomenal partners in the community, but we're trying to get a central resource center easily accessible for people to work their way out of homelessness.
Thank you very much. We have actually now reached the point where we're going to open up the floor. There is a microphone right there. I'm sure all of you are going to walk very purposefully and politely up to the microphone right now. Couple of rules to remember. First of all, 2 minutes. Please try to keep it to that. Second, try to be nice to one another. Fort Wayne's a nice place. Be nice to each other when you're talking. Next, when you come up, if you're standing in line, you hear somebody saying something that's already been said, wave high when they're saying the good thing, and then go ahead and sit back down again. That would be very nice of you. And I also want to quickly mention that we have been joined by a sixth member of council who's not sitting up here in front, sitting, I'm not sure where she went, but another one who's here, just to make sure we know the council members who are here. And we will, if it's a comment, we're just going to say thank you very much and ask you to move on. If you have a question, we'll do our best to answer it right now. Keep in mind that in some instances, we may have to ask you to give us a little time to come up with an answer. So the floor is yours.
Save the worst for first, I guess. Huh? I'm a monitor myself. Good evening, everybody. So my name's Reverend Angelo Manti, live in 46807, and I'm here tonight representing First Wayne Street United Methodist Church, and thank you, and Alive Community Outreach, which operates out of First Wayne Street United Methodist Church. And so we are the closest neighbor to this proposed site, and we've got several folks here tonight from First Wayne and Alive to support this resource center. Now, I've read the serious critiques, and they raise some real questions, good questions, and I'm grateful that our city council is doing its due diligence as they should. I would only ask that you all remember that there is a real human cost for every day that this issue goes unaddressed. So yesterday at church, about 10 minutes into worship, I took my 7-year-old Manny to the bathroom. He had to go to the potty. And so we went in there, and there was a man at the sink with a little toiletry bag, brushing his teeth, washing his face, a sight that was so common, Manny didn't even notice. And I think he was also focused on the donuts that he didn't get in the fellowship hall. But there are other times that we've experienced things that are a little bit more concerning, like the time that we found a man in a mental health crisis, stripped completely naked, bathing in that same sink. So this morning, when I got up, I opened up my Bible app, and the verse of the day is from Galatians, which says that the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we've heard a lot about loving our neighbor over the past several months, but that as yourself part, that often goes unnoticed. But I think a closer reading of the gospel reveals that there's actually some self-interest baked right there into the very heart of it. Because to me, it turns out that loving our neighbor actually often tends to be in our own best interest.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you.
I will just simply add, thank you for proving my point, because I told Andy Downs this morning when I opened my app that scripture came up, and he says, Mayor, I don't believe you. I said, no, it did. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. He thought I was egging it on. Thank you. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Thank you for
Thank you.
Sandra Garza, 46802, on behalf of Fuerza Unida. I'd like for all of you to picture this. Imagine one of our white male city council members came forward with a plan. He did the research. He spent months looking for solutions. He brought experts. He answered the questions. He came back with when everyone asked for more. Do you all really believe that we would be sitting here tonight? Because I don't. And that's why I'm going to call a spade a spade. This is racism, this is sexism, and this is classism. I reclaim my time. Our first black female mayor has done everything you've asked of her, and the bar keeps moving. That's what implicit bias looks like. And the classism is obvious. We want to help the people experiencing homelessness. We just want to help the ones we just want the help and the people who need it somewhere else. We've heard that argument from the Lutheran congregation, but as followers of Christ, shouldn't the response be, come on, let's help you get somewhere that can help you? Because moving the resource doesn't move the problem. Bishop Rhodes seems to understand that. Helping people means meeting them where they are. And if the cities are sending homeless people from Fort Wayne to Fort Wayne, address that separately. I'm going to move on to the other piece, the fact that Councilman Yale doesn't seem to be here. I am assuming he's at Micah Beckwith's town hall, and that is a choice. When your constituents are here asking you to help solve a problem in the city, you were elected to govern. I think they deserve to know where you choose to be. And Micah Beckwith stood behind a pulpit talking about about Christian hate. Tonight, we should be having the council show us what Christians should help with. Our neighbors, our constituents, and the people of Fort Wayne. 2027 is coming and we're watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joy Grove, but I'm actually reading on behalf of Reverend Sarah Offner Seals from Plymouth Church here, 46802. And she regrets that she cannot be here, but Plymouth is located at the corner of Fairfield and Berry. It's in the heart of downtown Fort Wayne. As a pastor at a downtown church, I encounter unhoused folks on a regular basis, and our church staff is united in the opinion that not only is there a need for this low barrier center, but that it is crucial that the center be located downtown for the following reasons. Those who object to locating the center downtown are ignoring the fact that there are already multiple shelters and homelessness organizations, such as the Rescue Mission and In As Much Ministries, located downtown. Therefore, locating the resource center elsewhere will not resolve or eliminate current activity of unhoused people in the downtown area. Locating the resource center outside of downtown will make it harder for people in need to access, especially given the lack of public transportation on evenings and weekends. Additionally, many unhoused individuals don't have money for regular public transportation and have to walk. Since the Rescue Mission routinely turns people away who have substance use problems or mental health challenges, these individuals are left with nowhere else to go downtown. Locating a low barrier resource center downtown will actually get more of these people off the streets, which is safer for downtown schools, businesses, and churches, and those individuals themselves. Finally, as a pastor, I would be remiss if I did not mention the moral and humanitarian dimension of this debate. It's important for us to remember as we engage in this conversation that we are talking about vulnerable human beings, and they should not be treated as if they are disposable or invisible. They should not be treated as a problem to be solved, but as people in need of care and compassion. I interact with this population on a regular basis, and never once have I felt threatened or unsafe. Uncomfortable, maybe, but there is a difference between discomfort and an actual threat to one's safety. We must not confuse the two.
Thank you. And I have been informed there is a seventh member of council who has shown up right now, so we're up to 7 of them. Marilyn.
Good evening and afternoon, both. I'm Marilyn Moran Townsend. I live in the 46804 zip code area, and I'm also a member of First Wayne Street United Methodist Church, and I teach Sunday school there. I'm here tonight not to speak about the merits of the plan. I'm here tonight to speak about the merits of this group. I want to honor every single person who is here this evening, because it just warms my heart that you care so much about our community, and it's only because we live in this democracy that we can all be here this evening. So I want to honor each and every one of you, those of you who support the plan and those of you who have reasonable concerns. But here's what I think. I believe that this is a good plan. It's not perfect. But if we wait for perfection, we'll never do anything. So we have to act on the good. And I truly believe that there are so many good people here who recognize I'm not going to impugn your intent, but I believe you have some reasonable concerns. And we can work together to address those concerns as we move forward, which is what I highly recommend we do. And so I thank the mayor and I thank the leaders for all the good work that you've put into this good plan, and I hope that we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kate Connor, 46802. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for actually hosting a town hall to have let everyone share their opinions. And similarly to what Amanda Fall says, there's no one way that we will all agree on one singular action. I just want to go ahead and voice my support for the downtown location, for the Anchor Resource Project, and I want to thank all of our faith leaders for being here, but I would like to turn it over and go to a little bit something more my speed, which is being a good neighbor, like Mr. Rogers said. Please, 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 please approve this project. Thank you, bye.
Good evening. My name is Larry Korleski, 46835. I'm just a stupid taxpayer who's here facing these people who are being paid by taxes, and I had to pay for parking to come down here and all that stuff. Just to say, don't do it. I have done my research. Other cities who have done this, homelessness increases. They're already busing people in from other cities here. When you have facilities, when you open them up, people will come. I was a Milwaukee policeman. I watched it happen. And it's not a good thing for the people here. I'm just a taxpayer. Taxpayers are going to pick up the bill for this. People are going to be leaving things because, like Zesto's right now, with the homeless or whoever they have sheltered over there, coming over, chasing their customers away. You're trying to build up the downtown. You really want it to be better. I see nice construction, like you said, nice construction. But the people who are owning those properties or coming down there, they're not too likely to like it when the bums are wandering around, pooping on the streets, leaving their needles for the kids to find. I've seen it happen. I know it. I've also interviewed people who are homeless. I'm not talking through my hat. They want to be where they are, many of them. They want to be there. They prefer it. So I just say, please say no, be responsible, and poor taxpayers like us don't have to get hit with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Dukovic. I'm a retired psychiatric mental health clinical nurse specialist. There are many strategic details and financial issues to address with the proposed Access Center. However, it is time that the community moves forward and does not bury this problem under rhetoric. It is past time to address the state of homelessness in our community. And although many services do exist, they are often difficult to access, especially for those with limited phone service and transportation. It can be a daunting task, even for the most committed, to navigate the myriad of issues involving agencies, regulations, scheduling, who name them. There is no generic unhoused individual or family. I've met many. Those have a range of services that need to be available to assist those who are, whether they're short-term or long-term unhoused. And much of the focus of opposition seems to been on a sense of dirtiness, substance abuse, and uncivility of the homeless population. In my experience, recognizing one's humanity goes a long way. Providing facilities for basic hygiene and toileting is a basic and enhances dignity of self. Providing a safe site for rest, especially for single women who are as easily preyed upon, is compassionate and socially responsible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dawn Fritz, 46814. I'm here to say that the students of Fort Wayne that are homeless, there are over 1,000 of them every day for years that have been homeless. They need they need showers, they need the clean hygiene, they need this center. They cannot continue to wait. These kids go to school and there's a huge stigma for them. Their education is at stake. Please, City Council, do the right thing and quit putting off this vote.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Robin Blue. I live in the 46806. I don't think anybody's going to say there aren't homeless, because there are. And we're not going to say they don't have needs, because they certainly do. I'm coming with a little food for thought coming from my perspective as a city planner. I have a degree from Ball State in Urban and Regional Studies. And we have two major corridors, the Jefferson and Washington corridor, east-west, and the Clinton and Lafayette, north-south. There are a lot of people that move through our city. There are a lot of people that visit our city. Since I'm semi-retired, I have worked banquets here through a temp agency at the Hilton. I see people from all over, all kinds of states. Even a couple of weeks ago, there was a family that came to a global conference from Argentina. They see our city, they experience our city. And as I drive in from the east almost every day that I come downtown, I'm wondering what image is this going to project as they drive by? We certainly need a facility of this type, but Fort Wayne has improved tremendously from when I moved here. I moved here 30 years ago. Downtown was a nothing burger. It really was. And it's come tremendously far, and I don't want us to take a step back in projecting a wonderful image of Fort Wayne.
Thank you. That's a question. So we'll answer your question. Thank you so much that's the first question we've received. What I will tell you is that when we study the traffic pattern of downtown, what we notice is that most of our visitor traffic and our residential traffic, it occurs on the west side of our downtown, from south at the Brackenridge at the stadium. It goes north to Promenade Park, and will continue on to North River. The boundaries usually start from Lafayette or Clinton on over to Broadway. That's where most of the traffic that comes for our visitors are at. If you look at the east side, you will see many of our visitors or many of our residents there. The traffic pattern tends to be those that are unhoused or that need assistance, and they travel along Lafayette corridor. I respect and appreciate how much you love Fort Wayne, because I do too. It is a beautiful city, and we have grown phenomenal, and we're going to continue to keep growing. The reality is that success that we are currently having as a city needs to include all. It needs to recognize all. It needs to be for all, right? And so part of the design of the building is to help mitigate some of the challenges that can be seen when you travel through Lafayette, with the courtyard being buffered in, having beautification inside, giving individuals an opportunity to be in a safe space so that they don't have to sit out on the curb driving around the corner today. I saw some people on the Grand Wayne Center stoop sitting there. That's what the design of the building is, so that it will help to mitigate some of the challenges that you've seen. Whether we agree on the reason to have that mitigation done or not, the building, it does take into account to make sure that it enhances the city and not make it a worse situation. Thank you for the question. Hi.
Hi, my name is Katie Watson, 46802. I think I'm the first one tonight. I live here. I live in West Central. I've lived here for almost 20 years. My husband and I have raised 2 kids here. They are now 13 and 17. My younger son went to Alyssum Montessori for 6 years of his elementary school. That school takes the kids walking all over for their recess time, to go to the library, the Y, all those things right around this resource, where this resource center is proposed. My older son rode his bike to his job at the Burger Bar this summer. This is a walking community, a place where we live, and I work downtown. We attend a church downtown. We're always in the community. I keep hearing a lot of opposition to this that is worried about me and my family, that is worried about our safety. Please don't. We're fine. We're doing great. We love this neighborhood. And you know, I passed half a dozen homeless people walking here to this meeting tonight from my house. Those folks need services, and honestly, if you're worried about me and my safety, the more resources that are available to folks, the better I'm doing too. So thank you for the work you have done so far for this. Please don't use me as a reason to not move forward.
Patricia Murphy, 46835. I am a retired physician assistant and have worked in an inpatient chemical dependency facility. My professional career taught me to respect the disease and the individual. Therein lies hope for the individual and the greater community. My concern is the labeling of addicts by some opponents to the center, especially about the addict's predilection for molesting children. Peter Scares has been quoted and has written in public formats about this. He has been identified as a Northside resident and a former St. Paul's parent. His documented statements include Wayne 15, June 3rd article, Zachary offenders. Journal-Gazette letter to the editor, June 5th, sexual predators. A public Facebook post, June 8th, sexual offenders. Fort Wayne Business Weekly, June 16th article. The facility will welcome the addicted, an admirable goal. But addicts, by definition, are driven to obtain what their bodies crave. We all have the right to speak as a private citizen, but when professional realities overlap with personal opinions, this needs to be addressed. A Google search for Peter Scayer shows on the Concordia Theological Seminary Fort Wayne webpage his bio. Dr. Peter Scayer, professor and chairman of a theological department. Both St. Paul's Lutheran Church and the Concordia Theological Seminary are Lutheran Church Missouri Synod institutions. This matters now due to an August 12th court case. The state of Indiana versus Josiah M. Junkin. As reported by Alive 25, a 27-year-old Lutheran church leader is accused of molesting a 2-month-old girl in Fort Wayne. A webpage documents he is a student at Concordia Theological Seminary. Danger to children is not a trait of homelessness or addiction. It is a human failing that can be found everywhere. May we all approach this reality with humility and grace.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Richards, and I live in 46805. I actually do have questions. I hope that's okay. And Mayor, I appreciated that you said that there is not a line item in the city budget to support the shelter, but yet in the budget, there is an item of 1.2 million that is the city contribution. I was just wondering if it's not a line item in the city budget, where does that come from?
I can take that real quick.
Okay.
500,000 of it is the tax credit dollars.
That's a separate number, though, Amanda.
I'm going to do the math.
Okay.
And then 1.2 million is the opioid funds. And so both of those are funding sources that are available to nonprofits in our community, and the Anchor Resource Center would be applying for those.
How
I
much?
do want to, let me answer that too. I want to clarify because I did say the budget, but the operating budget for the Anchor Resource Center, there is no dollars for the operation of the Anchor Resource Center. Once council approves the purchase of the building, the city is bifurcated from responsibility in terms of paying for the operations of there's not one dime in our budget. The only resources that we get as a city to be able to help in costs comes from the federal government through the form of community block grants. Those dollars can go anywhere, and we've always helped non-for-profits, and we help non-for-profits right now with those resources. But in terms of a city budget line item, there's not one line item dollar.
And I just have a couple of quick comments and to finish asking my question.
Sure.
My background actually comes, I'm not one, but it comes in prosecuting sex offenders.
Yes.
And I do have a great concern that there is no way to screen for them at this center, given that it's within 1,000 feet of schools, programs, et cetera. Have you found a way to screen for these folks? Because there are going to be overnight beds available. They cannot stay in one place more than 3 days.
No, we're going to give her a few seconds because I ate up some of her time. I did eat up some of your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, so it is the responsibility of the sex offender. Our homeless sex offenders must check in and let the sheriff's office know where they are staying. If they are within 1,000 feet of the school, they are removed, like Andy spoke to earlier, which is why we already have a system that is working at the rescue mission, and the same system will be duplicated at the Anchor Resource Center.
But my question is, though, how do you actually identify them at the center so they don't get in to begin with?
Again, sex offenders are able to walk around our community every day.
I understand that, but
we may
that's
have some
not-
in this room right now.
That's not my question.
They must report where they're sleeping.
Hold on.
and the Sheriff's Department will address that.
And here's the thing, Karen. I would love for you to partner with us to
And
be
I-
able to, hold on, let me finish.
And I would do that.
To be able to come up with additional solutions. And I want the public to understand that. Like, Karen's question is a great question. And we're not trying to debate whether the question needs to be answered. But if you would love to join the team and say, hey, let's come up with the best outcome, because those who may oppose the Resource Center, I respect that. But what I welcome is come join us for the best outcome instead of the opposition.
We're going to have to, that's it, yeah.
And I am,
Yep.
and I am glad to do that. Just know that we're coming from two different perspectives on that. And I've watched the end result of what happens to kids.
Thank you.
So it's not that I'm unknown.
No, I appreciate
us
that.
want that.
Thank you so much.
I'm Kathy Humbarger, and my zip code is 46835. 468, excuse me, 46835, I'm sorry. I would like to see a show of hands. How many people here disagree with this statement? We should love our neighbors as ourselves. If you disagree with that, hold up your hand. Not a person in this room disagrees with that statement. It's a pretty broad statement, but it would be interesting to dig a little deeper and see exactly what the Lord means by love. I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with family members who continue to make bad decisions. You don't continue to fund those people and make it so that they can continue their bad decisions. The people, which brings me to my major concern, and that is the piling everybody in the same facility. I think we could all agree that those who are situationally homeless, who've fallen on bad times and want to get a way out, are totally different than the people who are addicted, mentally ill, or just choose to live under the bridge. And there are some, whether you like to believe it or not, that make that choice. So why are we trying to address everyone's concerns, everyone's needs, as one big unit? It makes no sense. I would just like to ask you how you plan to protect children who are housed at the low barrier shelter from someone who may come in and say to a 14-year-old, hey, come with me tomorrow and you'll make $200. And don't think it won't happen. So help me know how you're going to protect the children.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. And your time is up, so I'll answer it while you're walking away from the microphone. Our protection for our babies, because I care about children as well, Kathy, is to make sure that we have security inside the facility. Having been a director at Vincent Village, we had multiple families that lived in the same place jointly, and we always had 24-hour security on board to be able to keep the child or protect children. The other thing is that we, at the facility where my experience comes from, is we made sure that the child was with a parent the entire time that they were in the facility. And that is the way it operates right now in many unhoused shelters that have children that are there, because it doesn't have to be a sex offender. It could be an individual, as we've read in the newspaper today and the day before. So the goal is to always make sure that you keep your child with the parent under supervision, supervised care.
One quick comment before we get to the next part. I remind people it's about 6:30 right now. We're trying to get through as many people as possible. If you happen to have heard your comment, please get out of line so that somebody else can have their opportunity. And on that note, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Andy Worrett, 46825. We have 4 kids. We drive in every day to school at St. Paul's, which I know is a bad word among some of you. But if you knew us and gave us a chance and knew who we were, it would not be a bad word. We take field trips to the rescue mission, to Shepherd's Hand. We teach our kids about the homeless and their situation. We do school and church offerings to go toward and help our homeless in our area. We do sock drives, we do diaper drives. We teach our kids about it. We know all of us are one bad event away from being in a situation like that ourselves. We have homeless students that go to our school, and we make sure that their tuition and lunch and needs are fully covered. I have 2 quick questions. Can you give us 3 tangible, measurable ways that we can define success for this low barrier so citizens can determine whether it is accomplishing its goals? And then my second question is, how will we know that we are helping Fort Wayne's existing homeless population rather than attracting additional people from other communities? We have been repeatedly told that this shelter is intended to meet an existing Fort Wayne need, which we at St. Paul's can see the need as we see homeless. But we don't want it to make a destination for the homeless. So how specifically can we ensure that? And now just think about this really quick. I have 20 seconds. If someone arrives from another community that needs shelter, for example, when it's 10 below zero, of course we're going to have compassion and help them. But then we are serving people from outside Fort Wayne. So what safeguards will prevent that number from continuing to grow and then increase demand for needs for more shelters, city funding, new setups, and so on? So thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. I'm going to first start talking about ways to measure success. City Council does have our operations plan, and in there we very clearly have outlined measures for success in multiple categories, such as service delivery, housing outcomes, stabilization outcomes, community impact, and safety measures. Much of our funding will be grant funded through foundations. Anyone who has ever written a grant knows you have to have measurable outcomes that you report on to be able to receive that funding. You identify those measurable outcomes when the grant is written, and then you also give updates throughout the year to be able to get more funding. So there will absolutely be measurable outcomes. We at the Anchor is also committed to publicly reporting out at City Council what those measurable outcomes are and what our successes are. There will be challenges. That is why one of the outcomes that we are measuring has to do with community impact. We want to keep track of those incident reports and things so that we can only improve the safety for our neighborhood. The second issue you brought up was people being dropped off from other communities. I think many of you know that we did pass an ordinance recently, and the ordinance is working. We have also put in the operations plan that we will comply with that ordinance, and we will work with the current reporting process for when people are dropped off. You're absolutely right. If someone comes up in need of services from another community, we're not going to turn them away. But if they are dropped off from another community or bused here, we will be reporting that, and we will be addressing it like we currently are and have had much success with.
I'll add to that if I could. Last Wednesday, I was walking at Fryman Square going into the Arts Center. And as I was walking up, a young man came up to me on his bicycle. He had on a wife-beater T-shirt and some ruddy jeans, and he said, "Mayor Tucker, I'm homeless." And I said, "Where are you sleeping tonight, dear?" He said, "I'm going to try to stay at the rescue mission if I can get in." I said, "Okay, that's good. What do you need, and how can we get you resources?" And he said, "I hopefully can get there, and I should be okay, but we definitely need the resource center." He then added, "I was dropped off here from Wells County." And I added, "They brought you all the way here." And I said, "Yeah." I says, "They shouldn't have done that. They weren't supposed to do that." It has been happening since before I became mayor. It's been happening after. And as we find out, we are implementing our ordinance to make sure that we are holding those individuals accountable. As we find out, we are trying, because what I do know is that it is not the responsibility of the citizens of Fort Wayne to take care of Wells County, Indianapolis, or any other person's challenges. We have enough in our community to be able to serve on our own. So we are addressing it one at a time, and we will be able to continue to issue citations as we find out that our neighboring communities have dropped people off without an overnight plan in our area. It would be my desire that they would follow our policies. That's my desire for human beings, but if we had every human in every municipality did the things that were supposed to be done, we wouldn't need police officers, courts, or jails.
Thank you.
I'm Carla Kilgore, 46807, and I've had the honor in serving in several local nonprofits. About 44% of Fort Wayne renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing. A small setback can quickly cause people with lower incomes to fall into homelessness. Even people with higher incomes can during times of medical need, so many other reasons. Large swaths of our community were not born with access to the same support networks that I've had, and many people literally have no one safe to turn to in a crisis. About a third to half of people who are homeless spent time in the foster care system, and many homeless are there due to violence against them. Once someone is homeless, survival is exceedingly difficult, exacerbating mental illness and substance use disorder, exacerbating intellectual impairments and medical needs. Getting back into homeless housing is harder than it ever was to maintain housing in the first place. I work within a block of the Plan Center. People are already living outside, so any danger that they might pose to anyone in the community already exists, and finding the resources to help them be able to use restrooms indoors and talk to mental health professionals and get assistance can only make all of us safer. So I think it's our decision now to decide if we'll leave people outside or bring them in.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Larry. I live at 46803 zip code. First of all, I have a script, and listening to everybody, I'm changing it a little bit. I'm not opposed to homeless and helping homeless in any way I can. What I would like to introduce is a different concept. Looking at, in my opinion, looking at the city, I think it needs to decentralize and diffuse the street level impact. So successful cities do not drop low barrier shelters into prime downtown commercial corridors. Successful cities do not warehouse people. They use a smart and direct to housing strategy that protects both vulnerable residents and local businesses. Successful cities utilize a program called Functional Zero Partnership. This makes homeless rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. The focus is two strategies. You centralize the data tracking, which includes sobriety, background checks, program participation, etc. And then you use a scattered site, landlord participation, proposed housing. Cities like Rockford, Illinois, Abilene, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and even Indianapolis have used these programs. Indianapolis specifically calls it the Streets to Home program, which bypasses costly commercial retrofits entirely to move people into stable housing in under 30 days. This direct-to-housing model immediately places individuals into a permanent, scattered site housing integrated throughout the county with private partnerships. The partnerships is a landlord situation where the landlords are protected. They have rate guarantees, they have damage assurances, they have fast-track evictions if needed, and designated city liaison hotlines.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Calloway, 46807. Before I have my statement, I would like to ask the church how they are protecting the children, because the last two people that were arrested were both linked to a Lutheran church. So that's a good question for them too. Listen, it's real simple. It's where it needs to be because we're gonna move it out to Arlington Park. We're gonna move it out to Jefferson Point. Where are we gonna move it at? Somebody who runs a sober living home, it takes a lot of effort to get our people to different resources. Just think if my staff had one place where they could take each individual all at one time to get the things that they needed to succeed. Because even though they live in our sober living home, they are still unhoused. That is not their house. Their house is eventually moving on from our place, but they need the resources to do it. And therefore, we continue to take these things away from people. You're just continuing to add that vicious cycle because without resources, there's nothing. I have 16 years of sobriety because of resources. Right? I moved into a sober living house myself. I got help going through different places and getting the education that I need to live, to make my bed, to go brush my teeth, to get my insurance. I had to go to all these different places to learn to live. And if we continue to take that away from people, we're just keeping them stuck right where they're at. So once again, yes, I want to protect the children. Of course, obvious. That is the most idiotic question ever. We want to protect our children, but we also want to have our children have a successful life, and that is by giving their parents the resources that they need to let them grow up to be good children.
Hi, I'm Angela Graven. I live in the 06 area, but I volunteer for the St. Vincent de Paul of St. Mary's, which is in the 02. And we are right across the street from the rescue mission. So we get a lot of those people in, and they need toiletries, they need to take showers, we have a church, a house across the street from our church that offers that, but it's limited because it's just a house. And I've been told that their laundry is going all the time. I mean, people need this. People need resources. I would love to have a centralized, like you're proposing. I would love to have that for our people because our people need it. They're not, you have no idea how bad the housing is. I mean, it's gone sky high. So many people, we've added quite a few homeless because of the housing, and people need help. So I just fully support this. Thank you.
Remind you to speak in the, come closer, there you go. It's your
Hello.
day.
Hello, mic check. My name is Sarah Thompson. I'm going to speak from the perspective of a local business owner. My business is Good Bread for All, and I take that to heart. It's in the O2. It's not right on Broadway, just down from Inasmuch Ministries. And we serve a free meal to anyone who asks for it. Any day we're open. It's beans and rice. It's really good. And to date, since we started doing it when SNAP got canceled, I think November-ish, we've served 1,000 beans and rice meals. And we've, thank you. A lot of people have helped us do that with money and stuff, but we have a good relationship with people without homes that are walking downtown and stuff. And I have a pretty good beat on some of that's happening. And the messes and the everything people have said that they're worried about, like they're already there. Needles and stuff like that. I don't know if the people that are complaining aren't walking downtown. I don't see you guys downtown. It's down there. So these people are kind people that have landed on hard times, and before I started the business, I started a group called Forward Indiana, and we installed like 30 free food pantries around town. And we did that in 2020, and we did that because we saw a need, and your local activist community is tired. We need support, we need help, and we need our officials to help us, and we need this resource center. So thanks for doing this. Please follow through.
Time.
We will help too, but we need you guys to do your jobs, and or else we're going to elect somebody else.
Time.
Hi there, Autumn Charlize, 46808. I have lived in the Bloomingdale neighborhood for 3 years, but before that, I lived in 46802 in the Hoagland Masterson neighborhood for 10.5 years. For 7.5 years, I served coffee for a major coffee chain downtown, right across from the Salvation Army. And I have served probably so many of the people in this room. I have served CEOs, I have served executive directors, I have served white collar, blue collar, I have served the homeless. What I will say is I am not a person of faith, but I have prayed with people. People who have needed things. People who have had nowhere to turn. I have directed them to local nonprofits like Blue Jacket and Matthew 25 and the Rescue Mission and all of the different resources that Fort Wayne has available to it. And what I would ask is that why would we not want a centralized location where everyone can access the things that they need? The things that are vital to survival, to knowing where they're going to get their next shower, where they're going to go to sleep tonight. It is so important that we look at our neighbors and we see, if you are a person of faith, that we see God in them. We should have faith in one another. I want to thank the people who are here, the people who have proposed this plan, because I think that it is a benefit to this city, to its citizens, homeless or not. Thank you.
It is 6:48. Remember, we were trying to get out of here. Originally, we planned it for 7. We're going to go a little bit longer than that, obviously, but please be as succinct as you can be.
Gary Erdis, 46804. I am the senior pastor of Trinity English Lutheran Church, which is one of the iconic buildings almost directly in the heart of the city. Though I'm sure many of you already know how, at least we at Trinity, understand this situation of homelessness, both in terms of humanitarian questions, theological and spiritual questions as well. One of the things that strikes us is that often we're afraid of the things that we don't know. And when we read the newspapers and the things that have been in the papers since this was first proposed, it very much feels like a conversation of people who have never met somebody who's unhoused. And our own church has worked through that. And it is by knowing people, more than 200 who come on Thursday evenings for dinner, more than 50 who come every Wednesday for lunch. It's by knowing people that many of the fears that even our own people had are just dispersed because we now see each other as humans. So we would commend to anybody, Councilwoman Chambers, Councilman Paddock, you, Mayor, have joined us to, again, meet our neighbors and see the humanity that is inside of them. We have, as you know, we have pledged, the Trinity English Foundation has pledged $40,000 for the first 3 years of work because we believe in the work that you're doing. And we're fortunate to be able to put resources behind that. But come and join us in doing that work. The only thing that we would offer is that we only regret that it's not across the street from us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Hello, Rick Runstead. So to me, I consider this stone cold madness.
My hometown is Flint, Michigan. I used to live in inner city Detroit. They're both bombed out wastelands. What happened? They were economic powerhouses. They did one thing after another, after another, after another, until they were totally destroyed. You have no idea, if you are from a place like I am, but you've always lived here, how incredibly nice Fort Wayne is. It is a wonderful city. And we have poured oceans of money into the downtown. Oceans. Is it all working out? I'm starting to hear Will Chapman Brewery closed and all that. And I'm starting to hear other rumors about businesses pulling out of downtown. And now we're going to put this downtown right there at the epicenter. Look, I am all for helping people who have need, especially drug addicts. I would be very happy to see us spend money. You talk about $500,000 a year. We're getting that from the feds. We can use that in any way. Let's just dump it down there for drug addicts to live there in a low barrier place where there's absolutely no guardrails, no effort to get them off of drugs. We have seen property taxes skyrocket as property values have increased. We have seen the income tax go up 59% over the last dozen years. We've seen the federal government explode in grants. That's not always guaranteed. So the decisions that we're making, are they going to benefit the community or hurt the community? Are they going to help the addict or hurt the addict? Are you going to enable them? Hey, I tell you what, live here. We'll give you 3 hots and a cot. Use your food stamps on the drugs. Let the cartels know we're now your partners. No, what we want is to take those dollars, and use them to help people, help them get off of drugs. May I get a little extension because I'm getting interrupted? Use those dollars to help people get off of drugs. They can. At the end of the Vietnam War, huge number of people are addicted to drugs. Less than 1% of heroin addicts stayed as heroin addicts. We can solve these problems. We do not need to enable the problems. This is not the answer. This will contribute to problems, not solve problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
All right, hold on. At the start, I asked that people try to be polite, and I've heard more than a couple words that would not count as polite by most people's standards. So let's make sure that people have an opportunity to express their opinion. It is their opinion. They're going to let you do it. You got to let them do it as well.
I do want to answer. I hate to see him leaving the room. I want to answer his question that he asked, and that is.
It's okay.
It's okay. Thank you. You had asked if we were going to help, and the answer is we are seeking to help, but I also want to remind you and everyone else in the room that there are more people that are not addicts that are homeless than there are people that are, you asked the question, I'm answering. So resources are applied equally to all people, including children and parents. And if you look at what just happened in Indianapolis with the floods that have taken over, can you imagine the number of people that are now displaced because they are uninsured or may not have the money that they need to be able to find a new place? They would now be considered homeless and would need resources. So our resource center is designed to be able to provide equally the resources that are available. Thank you. Hi.
Hello. Name is Raby 46845. A lot of people that are being this center are addicts, though, statistically. You're going to do security inside the building, and you have no hours where everybody can come and go. Other cities around that have done the same thing in the same size as Fort Wayne, they have a crews that walk around a 3-block area, perimeter security every hour or every half hour. It's really expensive. How are we handling that security? Because the other cities have found that necessary.
Yes, we do have a plan for outreach workers that will go around the perimeter. Our goal is to bring everyone inside, to welcome everyone inside. And in terms of people with addictions, there absolutely are homeless people with addictions. That's why we are already building partnerships with our transitional housing providers and with our residential treatment providers that we know that we can refer people to who want that help.
How about loitering outside? How about people shooting up outside? Needles laying around, cleanup, that type of thing. Is that handled?
There is a code of conduct. Drugs, weapons,
Yeah,
alcohol are
inside,
not
but-
allowed on the entire property.
Right, but not outside.
No, the property, and so the parking lot. And
Yeah.
security will be walking the perimeter. We will ensure that none of those illegal practices are happening.
Okay, from what I've heard, it's somewhere north of a $500,000 cost to have that 3-block perimeter walks 24/7. Also, on the environmental, is that testing all complete now, or is it still ongoing?
I'd have to check on that. I believe it is now done. The items that were held, it is complete. Inside the building, perfectly fine. Outside the building, what was underground is contained, and according to the people who look at that stuff, it's contained in a way that doesn't seem like it's going to move off of the land.
I
And
heard
so
they
it's
found
not-
an anomaly below the
that's-
tanks.
That's just the terminology that's used for where they found stuff. Yeah. So it's
And the
everything
test-
what is underground is contained. Nothing is in the building in terms of inappropriate pollutants, et cetera.
So we're
yeah.
not buying a big potential
No, we're
cleanup.
not. No.
Okay.
I do want to add, I toyed with sharing this because I wanted you all to, I want us to come to a decision based on what we've presented before you. But the security question is a fair question that continues to come up. So I'm going to go ahead and share. We are working with the Fort Wayne Police for an outpost to be at that location as well, at the resource center on the opposite side. So security for us, it is a major thing, and we're working with our partners in the Fort Wayne Police Department for an outpost to be located there. Thank you.
Next.
Hello, my name is Jillian. I live in 46835. I stand here before all of you today, number one, as a Christ follower, Jesus is Lord, and number two, as a parent. I have 2 small children that go to St. Paul's, not far from where this shelter low barrier is supposed to be. And while I'm not opposed to what we are trying to do, I do think it is a problem. I've worked in various settings of healthcare for almost 10 years now, and there is a need. But as a parent, Mayor Tucker, you have said that you are here to serve all. And my question to you would be, in that statement, how are we serving our children by putting this low barrier so close to a school? What measures can we take in order to keep my children and every child safe?
Absolutely. So the first part of your question is that we absolutely are doing what we know to do and can do, which is why I just mentioned everyone keeps saying the security. We're working on having the outpost that's there. Now that it's out, I'll just keep saying it. So that'll add an extra layer of security to it. The other thing that I want to remind you is that I appreciate tell me your zip code again.
46835.
35, okay. So when you think about your children coming into downtown, you're bringing them for school, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so your children are there and protected inside of Lutheran building, correct?
Correct.
And when they're out on the playground, are there people out there with them?
There's teachers, I would
Okay.
assume.
Okay. And so the point that I'm making is we're going to continue to make sure that our kids are safe by supporting the parents and the adults that are around the children doing just like they are right now, because right now your children are seeing what is downtown as well. And so this resource center is designed to be able to pull people from having to walk and stand around where your children are and be able to bring them inside of a building, thereby helping keep some safety for your kids as well, okay? The thing that I want you to understand is I care about your child no differently than I care about every other child that's in the city. Your child going into the building, protected with the adults, will be there while we are working on the outside of the building, keeping our unhoused population and our families protected inside of our building and our location. It is our desire not to cause any downward spiral or any additional burden than what is currently existing in the location.
And I have one more question. Are you guys going to help provide, the Lutheran school or any other businesses or schools in the area with extra resources possibly for children in the setting that I'm speaking of, about how they can educate the children, if there are those homeless individuals that are out at the playground talking to kids through the fence, or, those type of things? Are you going to be able to provide those resources to the teachers and to staff in surrounding areas?
So thank you for your question. Let me talk to me offline, because I'm curious about how that would work for it. I don't want to say no to you, but I would love to be able to talk to you offline.
And I'm going to
Thank you.
suggest standing up in the back right about now is Mary Tyndall. So if you walk back there, she'll make sure that the contact information gets collected.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
My name is Mariah Russell in 46808. I want to thank you guys so much for putting in the years of research into this project and the work to bring it before us. My comment has changed about a dozen times since I was in line, but I do want to say I think it does more harm for our children to see people unhoused without resources. What message is that sending to our children that those people don't deserve what we deserve? And so the answer to a lot of the things that we're pointing to, addiction and mental illness, and is to be in community, is to be brought in and cared for by the community. And that does great things for all aspects of community, and that creates a safer community. But I really would like to hear some of the research that you've done into other cities. I know that you've talked to a lot of people who have put in resource centers like this. Can you tell us about what you've learned about how it impacted their communities?
Yes, so I will be as succinct as possible. We have spent countless hours with multiple different communities talking about what is working and what is not working, discussing the challenges that they may have so that we can learn from their challenges and ensure that we are better prepared for that. One city that continues to be brought up is Lafayette. And one of the concerns that continues to be raised is, Lafayette has had all these phone calls to the police and all of these interactions with the police. And I will tell you, when our police and myself and Kelly went down to Lafayette and met with their police said, you guys are light years ahead of where we were when we started because we didn't have a relationship with that center when they started. We have been intentional to partner with our police to ensure that we have that relationship. So again, we not only take the good, but we learn from the mistakes that have been made in other places.
Next.
Brandon Blumenhurst, 46805. I want to stand here in full support of the downtown proposed location for the Anchor Resource Center. I want to thank the city administration for putting together such a thorough plan, fostering stakeholder feedback, community feedback from the philanthropic, nonprofit, social services, businesses, communities. I think this has been one of the best plans that the city's put forward in quite some time. So I want to start off by thanking you all so much for that. In addition to that, I do want to thank the members of the City Council who are here tonight. Obviously, this is a major concern for our community that we all agree should be addressed. I do hope that many of you are taking the feedback that you've heard here tonight into consideration for your upcoming vote for the funding for the Resource Center. I do find it interesting that some of the most vocal opponents of this Resource Center are not in attendance tonight. So do with that what you will. But I am very thankful that I've had the opportunity to come up here and speak today. I'm very thankful that there are many others after me who are coming to speak in terms of their support to this as well. But I do, if you feel comfortable, if you are in support of the Resource Center, would you please raise your hand? I think that speaks volumes itself. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm Tony Lardell. I live at 2210 Beacon Street, Fort Wayne, Indiana. I just wanted to voice. I think you can make a right decision about the voting next week. I think what you guys are doing about Resource Center for the homeless people. I think it's a good idea to get the homeless show to start because we need a lot of homeless people are out there because they have no place to stay. They need a place they can stay. They don't have to. They have to need a place to stay. They don't have to be on the house all the time because we need a lot of homeless people need a place to stay too, not just us people or local people because there are all kinds of people because Jesus said in the Bible because invite your strangers to do to me what you do unto Jesus Christ. Please invite a stranger into your house, invite them and clothe them and feed them if you need to feed them because I think this research trying to sure work out. I mean. It will work out because we got to follow Jesus. At the Lutheran churches of America, we need to follow Jesus in the Bible. What Jesus told us in the Bible about the homeless people. That's all I need to know about. I mean, just wanting to share and Tucker this because God wants us to we got to follow God's. When we're in this earth, we got to follow God's law, and that's all. Sharon.
Thank you, Tony.
As a reminder, this had been advertised as 5:30 to 7. We are now at 7:05. We're going to keep getting a few more people in, but at some point we will have to end this. The Grand Wayne's been very nice in letting us have the space, and they thought it was going to end at 7. So I see several of you have already left, so we'll see how we move out from here.
I'm Rachel Tobin Smith, 46804. How low does it go? I'm Rachel Tobin Smith, 46804, and I'm short.
Me too.
The mayor is also short. Anyway, and so is Meg. It must be something that we're all here tonight. Anyway, I have 44 years in the nonprofit community and human services. Meg is tired of having me text or call her. I totally support this plan. I reviewed the salaries, the benefits, the salaries, and almost all of the plan that I've gotten to review is in line with the rest of the community of small nonprofits.
Sally Segerson, 46835. For 14 years, I have been serving this population that we are speaking about. When you call one of these people a bum, that is simply, and I'll be as kind as I can be, ignorant. When you want to portray them as a drug addict, again, I will be as kind as I can be, that is ignorant. The leading cause of homelessness is poverty and lack of affordable housing. 56% of this country is living one paycheck away from being in the exact same position. Our women's shelters have waiting lists that are months long. I am tired, in December, on the longest night, of reading the names of every person who has passed away in this last year who has homelessness as a chapter in their life story. I have lost a friend. I am not going to tell you that every person does not want to be where they are, but that is free will, and that is our country, and I respect that.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm 14 years old, and I live in the 46845 area. My generation is going to be inheriting the Fort Wayne that you all leave us. Do you want my generation to be scared of the unhoused, or do you want my generation to help our neighbors who are in need? We need this center to show what it is like to care for our neighbor. What about my peers, my friends that are homeless? They deserve to shower, to brush their teeth, and to have good hygiene. This center would help remove many of the problems that is making them not successful in school. Please think of their future. Think about your children and their future. Think of our community. I support the Anchor Resource Center, and you all should too.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Schweier. I'm from 46845. I support the Anchor Resource Center. I recognize the center isn't in my backyard, but it impacts me as a member of this community. 8 years ago, I left an abusive relationship with 2 chronically ill children, including that brave young lady who just spoke, and they both required hospitalizations and frequent blood transfusions. I had the privilege of having a family and a supportive social network that I was able to find a shared living environment for my kids and I until I could get back on my feet. But I recognize it for what it was, as a privilege that many people do not have. And had I not had that network, I would have chosen to be unhoused rather than stay in the abuse I was experiencing. Decisions like that are very, very real for many unhoused individuals. They are forced to be unhoused or to stay in terrible situations. I ask you, what decision would you make? Continue to experience abuse, continue to expose your children to abuse, or be unhoused? I myself do not identify as a Christian, but I tell you what, I want to live in the world that Jesus wanted to create, one where we support each other, take care of the sick, and extend hospitality to all. We are all people. Every member of the unhoused community are people. They have the same rights that we all do. My last comment is a question for the city council members, but apparently it's the ones that aren't here. Do you want to be a part of creating a community Jesus would have been proud of? Because that community would have welcomed this resource center.
Hi, my name is Taylor Steeb of 46805. All the data, research, evidence, and planning that has went into this very thoughtfully. And that was just shown to us, and yet there are some people that are still against this. At the end of the day, anyone against this is going home. They have a bed to sleep in, a bathroom to use at their leisure, and a safe roof over their head. If the roles were reversed, they'd be singing a different tune. The mayor said herself that the woman she spoke with today was 65, 66 years old. Homelessness does not discriminate. Struggle does not discriminate. The slippery slope to becoming homelessness is not steep, especially nowadays, and is not autonomous. Medical bills are high, our house bills are high, grocery bills are high, and just living in general is expensive anymore. One unintended hiccup in your life can send you down the path to losing your job, your home, your livelihood. So think of this as if it were yourself, because you would be thinking differently otherwise if you're against this. So also, thank you everybody who came to support and advocate for basic human rights.
We're gonna bear with me for just one moment. It looks like we'll go right over to 7:30. So the young lady in the green, sweetheart, you're the stop point, okay? When we get to you, I'm gonna kiss you. All right? All right. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Christina Kearns. I'm from 46818, but I have lived in 5 different zip codes over the last 15 years. That has included out by Brackenridge and about 20 feet away from the entry of the Tin Cap Stadium. So I know downtown well. And there's one point that I haven't seen brought up here by many. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but I haven't seen it represented. I just wanted to give you a face of what homelessness looks like. In 2013, I faced homelessness for a month. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you don't know where you're gonna sleep that night, it's a long time. 10 years later, I questioned if I'd be there again. I was escaping domestic violence with my son, and I felt like I'd fallen right back. I was successful. I'd been named one of the best massage therapists in the city twice, and I still faced it. I made bad decisions when I was 23, and I definitely did things that led to me not having a lot of money, but I was working 4 jobs, 4 part-time jobs to get me out of that homelessness into an apartment that cost $90 a week. And even then, I still had to drag food home from the church to eat that night because I could barely lift it. So I just wanted to give you guys a face of what that looks like, so. Thank you very much.
Terrence Koch, 46818. First of all, thank you, Chief of Staff and Mayor Tucker, for holding this. I am an optician and a former teacher in the Wayndale and Southtown region. I can't describe to you the feeling of seeing a student grapple with the knowledge that they don't know if they have somewhere safe to sleep that night or an adult that they can trust. We need the Anchor Center badly, pure and simple. This is not an issue for debate, but our responsibility as human beings. We as the working class are more vulnerable than ever before by design, all of us. Year by year, we are being pushed deeper and deeper into that state. The city government exists to serve its citizens. The people who would benefit from this center are those same citizens. They are our neighbors. They are us on our worst day. A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. And I can only hope that all of us are not judged by the actions of our weakest moments, but rather by the strength we show when and if we are given a second chance. My question is, how can we help? What are the best ways that the average Allen County citizen can support the Anchor Center and future similar resources?
Thank you for your question. What I would like to see is when the center is open, come and volunteer, come and help. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie, and I'm from the 06. I am currently homeless, and it is sad. I've called 211 for help, and I need a place. I've called everywhere, and everybody has told me no, because I need an interpreter. I keep getting frustrated from all of the denials, and I'm overwhelmed. It's not fair hearing people get what they need from the resources, and I don't, because I don't get the interpreter, the access, the language access. But I keep fighting. I keep trying to find a place. I mean, I have had a hard time, the security of sleeping at night, all the different places saying they can't do it for me. One good thing, the police have picked me up several times and dropped me off at the women's shelter. And finally, the police helped me, and of course, I thank them very much. And then the women there trying to figure out how to communicate with me. They said, I said, you can write. Yes, I do have some vision problems, but, I can't do that. I can't write with you. I can't. And so from that situation, I left again, and I slept on the street all night. And I kept going to different places that wouldn't offer me interpreters. And so I decided, I want to see, I'm a grandmother. I want a job. I want to have all of those things. I want to have my own place. Please give everyone a chance, especially deaf people, and allow them to have interpreters so they can find what they need. That's my suggestion, please. And I want Jesus to have, I want Jesus to be in my heart, and I want everybody to feel that. But all the homeless people that I see, it's just so heartbreaking. The world needs a place like this.
Again, we've got Mary Tyndall in the back, and I would love to get a way to be in contact. I know the women's shelters here in town, and we will see what we can do, because it is a need, and we will figure it out. So Mary is back there. We'll get your information.
Hello, I'm Landon from the 46802. Normally I speak at city council from the perspective of somebody who's dealt with being homeless and an addict, and someone who's recovered and is a member of the community thanks to the resources we have. But I kind of wanted to, bring up a consideration for everybody. I went to Gary this weekend, and if anybody, doesn't know, in Gary there's about 20,000 people who haven't had electricity for 2 weeks. And, I just want people to think about, what would it look like in Fort Wayne if 20,000 people didn't have power for 2 weeks, right? We already don't have the resources for the people who are experiencing homelessness. 20,000 people, it would be a mess, right? And yeah, that's all I want to mention.
Thank you.
My name is Bree, and I live in the 46825 area, but all of my work that I do is downtown. Everything that I do for my community members and everything that I do within my actual job is all downtown. One thing I keep hearing from those that are opposed is the word shelter, and I want to reiterate the fact this is not a shelter, this is a resource center. We are resourcing people. A place to resource people. Resources are basic human rights, and I myself am also a follower of Jesus, a Christ follower who believes in the calling that God has placed in my life to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Through numerous community give back initiatives for all, including our unhoused community members and our working class individuals, I am working with community members downtown day in and day out, but I also work with survivors of DV and SA. It is not just those that are dealing with addiction that are experiencing homelessness. As you have heard from some of our other survivors, Some of us have to leave our home and become unhoused just to survive. It has nothing to do with addiction, and the stereotype that it does is extremely harmful. There are some people that are just trying to be able to exist, and therefore their children then become unhoused as well. I want to share a story. For the kids that I work with, many of them are dealing with grief, trauma, unhoused, and other issues and incarceration. And I was talking to the kids about this issue. One of the kids actually attends St. Paul's, and they said, I'm so confused as to why they're against this. You see, Miss Bree, we have a buzzer at our door. We have law enforcement that's at our door providing security. They're on our grounds. There's a buzzer you can't even get in the school unless they identify you and decide to let you in. And our playground is completely fenced around. I'm just so confused as to why they would be against this. But I know they must mean well. After all, they serve the same God that I do.
Time. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Girdham, 46835. I'm sorry, 14. I'm for the support of what you guys are for, but I just felt like we should be using facilities that we've already paid for with our taxes. And what I'm hearing is they're all going to be torn down, which is going to cost us even more millions of dollars to tear down. And my concern is that, as a taxpayer, I'm from a family of 8 kids, and my dad worked his butt off to feed me, and we all have. So I just want to say that I wish that Social Security was inflation-based when it was created so that we would not have to worry about any medical costs. Wouldn't that have been great? Had they told the hospitals and pharmaceuticals all along as they increased our Social Security monies that was going to pay for it, we wouldn't have to struggle so much. Why did this country, for decades, take care of the poor people in other countries called USAID? But now we can't take care of anybody in any of these other countries. What's with that? Mayor Sharon Tucker, why do you think that this is a city problem? It's a county, state, and country problem. Let's use the resources from all 4 of those that I just mentioned. Let's feed the poor, and that means everyone, not just Fort Wayne. These are the kind of meetings that our community deserves to have before any approvals are granted for anything, and that especially includes data centers. This is what we have needed forever. We've been rode over.
Time.
And one last thing.
Time.
Time's up, dear.
Time.
Your time's up.
Thank
I'll
you.
answer your
Thank you.
question. In terms of, you ask, why do I believe that this is a city of Fort Wayne problem? I do not believe that it is a city of Fort Wayne problem. I have all my time stated that this is a problem for our entire county. I can just say that the city of Fort Wayne has been the one that is willing to address it for our residents that are downtown and prepared to take on the opportunity to help improve it for our community.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Jones, the real Bridget Jones. I am a business person here at a local company, as well as a business owner of my own, and I've seen through my mobile food truck homeless people come through, and I will feed them if I know they're homeless. But more importantly, what I want to say is we're all a step away from homelessness. I worked in corporate America. I lived in Miami, Florida for 20 years. When I got back here, accepted a corporate job, and was laid off 2 months later because they closed the business. Had just bought a home, sold a home. So I found myself a step away from homelessness until someone took me in. And And so I ask you the question, if you don't want the resource center, are you willing to take someone else in, as Jesus said? He said, as you do this to the least of them, you do it unto me. And I'm reminded one more story, because I did homeless resource and outreach in Miami for over 20 years, helping, feeding, clothing, and one man had a PhD there, and he was on the street. He says, everybody's not a drug addict. Everybody's not mentally ill. He said, I lost my soulmate, and I had a nervous breakdown. He was a doctor. And he says, I'm out here on the street. He says, but I like the way you guys are feeding and taking care of, because we went providing those resources, food, haircut, and we just didn't throw them a brown bag and say, eat whatever we give you. We cooked meals. He said, you came out here with heart. And for that, I say thank you. And Mary Tucker, I thank you for giving this platform for everyone, because the Bible says, let us come and reason together. For those of you who are struggling with the concept of a resource center, Jesus, what would you say to him today? Oh, go to that neighborhood, but not this neighborhood?
Time.
The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. God bless you.
Good evening. I am Pastor Jonathan Poling with Covenant Truth Apostolic Ministries in 46815 area code. Some of you may have drove down by the proposed location for this center and seen a white tent set up there with people out there ministering to the homeless, feeding the homeless, and ministering the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the church that I pastor. I only say that not because I expect some righteous pat on the back for the work that we're doing. I don't look for the accolades of men. I only look to hear the Lord say, enter in and receive your just reward. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. And it goes without saying that God requires of us to minister to the needs of those round about there. So I'm not here to wax eloquent concerning the need or not need. There's an obvious need for this kind of ministry inside of Fort Wayne. What I am here for is because I was invited down here to give the constituents of Fort Wayne the understanding of what we deal with on a regular basis while we're down here. And there's one particular issue that I wish to address tonight concerning this, and that is the fact that we are continually finding in the people that we are ministering to and praying with and feeding and trying to share the gospel with, that they are folks who are not residents of Fort Wayne. They are folks who are being shipped into Fort Wayne and dropped off downtown in Fort Wayne, and because of the rescue mission that's down there and because of the help that is made available to them. I think that it goes without saying that we need to do something here, but I do think it needs to be addressed in an even greater. And I don't mean to be agreeable to Amanda, but Amanda, it is not being fully addressed concerning the amount of people that are being shipped into Fort Wayne and dropped off downtown Fort Wayne with the expectation for the Fort Wayne taxpayer to meet their needs and take care of them, and I think that that's an issue that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will give one really quick statement about that. I will say just last week we had a large meeting of transitional housing providers, emergency shelters, residential drug and alcohol treatment centers, so we could talk about what the reporting process looks like and how we get that information to our law enforcement when people are dropped off. So we're not just looking at doing it at the Anchor Resource Center. I am working with all of the various locations here in Fort Wayne so that we do have that reporting process.
Can I also add, I want you all to think this through with me, because I agree with the gentleman that just left the microphone. We do need to hold individuals accountable, which is why we passed the ordinance. Thank you, City Council, for your support. But there's a lot that goes into that. Think through just the drop-off. If we are not aware that someone has been dropped in our community, there's no way for us to enforce the law, right? If the individual is not willing to provide who the transport who transported them here provide that name, that we're limited on how we can enforce the law. So we are doing all that we can from a law standpoint to be able to enforce that, but there's information that we do need. But we're not just settling there, we're also having conversations with representatives and senators so that we can make this a broader conversation for the state. Because we're not the only community that's experiencing that. Many other places, Bloomington, Indianapolis, are experiencing drop-off as well. And so I agree with you, sir. It is a challenge that we need to dig deeper on. And I just shared a little bit of the things that we're doing behind the scenes in our day-to-day work and our day-to-day conversations to try to make sure that we're addressing the challenge that you identified. And thank you again for bringing that up.
Last but not least.
Oh, I owe you a kiss.
Last but not
okay.
least.
Mayor Tucker, I will keep this short and sweet, just
Yes,
like
dear.
me. I am Joe Buffalino. I live in the O2. I have just a question, just as it's rhetorical. Is by chance, is there a doctor in the house? I'm not sick, but is there a doctor in the house? If not, if you say a doctor, and I would come to you and I'd say, oh, I'm having these horrible pains. Is your goal as a doctor to give me something to kill that pain so I don't feel it? Or would your goal be to figure out why am I having these pains and what can we do so that Joe won't be sick anymore? Fort Wayne, I hate to say it, has a disease. It's called homelessness. The rescue mission, the women's shelter, food banks, they're addressing the symptoms of the homelessness. This resource center wants to find out what is the cause and what can we do to cure the disease. And this is really all I have to say, and I think this is the best idea I have ever heard of. And even though I go past there a lot, I live in the O2, I highly support it. Thank you, Mayor Tucker.
Thank you.
I know.
For those of you that stayed throughout the whole conversation, thank you so much. You all have been with us for 2 hours. We said an hour and a half. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your comments. I know Andy is gonna close us and wrap us out. I just want to say this to you, if I could. I promise transparency. We've provided transparency. You all, we had both 2 weeks of questions online, over 500 statements, and today we've had 2 hours to be together. We will not always necessarily agree. And there are always multiple ways to be able to address a challenge. But what I do know is the city of Fort Wayne has always come together to take care of our challenges. We've seen it happen through the floods. We've seen it happen through COVID. We've seen it happen through many, many other challenges. We have raised over $3 million from philanthropic community, from kind people who didn't have to give money, but saw a reason to be able to support someone else. And what we're asking for now, remember, the city of Fort Wayne is asking to purchase an asset. We're asking to purchase a building so that we can then use that building to help address another challenge. And I want to make sure you all clearly understand the resources to operate this building have come from the kindness of strangers. It is not coming from taxpayers. I personally believe that we have gone above and beyond to be able to be as transparent as we can possibly be. And I am asking for the support of council, and they know that. They know that. You all, they've taken a lot of pressure. You don't have to call them. You don't have to send them any more nasty grams. You don't have to do anything. They know. They know. I believe that they've seen it. Let's just give them time to stop and think about it and give them time to process. We've given them the paperwork that they need. We gave it to them again on Friday in a packet. Thank you all for showing up to be a part of this conversation, both those who support and oppose, because that's how things are done, through conversation and through talking to each other. Thank you so much. This is why I love the city of Fort Wayne. I appreciate you guys.
It's a little hard for me to close something after the mayor does something like that, but I do just want to point out two things. First of all, thank you to the Grand Wayne Center for letting us use the facility today. And actually, thank you to the council members who were here tonight. They've sat through public meetings before, comment periods before. They've read the 539 things that were sent to them from folks. So thank you to them for doing that. And then two other things. First of all, thank the people who've been helping to sign this whole meeting for us. Thank you very much. And then I'll close with the mayor's comments as well. Thank you all for coming out tonight.